Good evening. So we would not have a video tonight, but we would have a live presentation. We're going to mix it up. Okay, we're going to have Gleny, come on Gleny Cherian. She's a professor of psychology at Weimar University. And Gleny is going to talk to us about mental health. And I know you'll be blessed. By the way, as far as all our health talks, we're not giving medical advice here. We're just giving some recommendations, and you should talk to your doctor about anything medical that you have. Or maybe when you meet with me, we'll have some more conversation. But don't take our word and say, well, he said. Okay? All right, God bless you.
All right, good evening. It's so good to be here with all of you. And before I go into some material, I'm going to start with this little illustration. Now, Jimmy, he was so excited to be at the beach and just found so much joy in putting his little hands together to build what he thought was the most beautiful, ginormous sandcastle in the entire world. Of course, he had the help of his father, who was very strategic with his planning. And he honestly thought this was the best thing that was ever made by man. Until Sammy, his friend, walks by and Jimmy beamed and says, "Sammy, don't you think that this is the best sandcastle in the whole wide world?" Sammy just looks at it, shrugs his shoulders, and walks away. Jimmy could not believe it. Like, wait, what in the world is happening here? Now, this is a concept we call egocentrism, a term that was coined by the Swiss psychologist named Jean Piaget. And he had termed this word and refers it to a child's inability to see the world from another person's perspective. The child makes assumptions that other people see, feel, and hear exactly what they are seeing, feeling, and hearing. This is why you might see a child playing peekaboo, and they might think that when they close their eyes, you can't see them. Because what they see is what you see, clearly. Or, children who do a terrible job at playing hide and seek. You see their faces hiding, but their legs and their hands clearly sticking out. And you wonder, wait, you need some training in this skill. Now, according to Piaget, most children grow out of this by the time they're about 7 or 8 or so. But he soon began to see that a lot of adults seem to have these traits of egocentrism. And of course, it didn't look like adults now having a hard time playing peekaboo or doing a bad job with hide and seek. Of course, I think most of us get better at that, hopefully, over time. It's just a hard time taking someone else's perspective. Now, I'll give you an example. A video I watched recently. There was a man who was heading to work, and this car just really speeds by him, almost hits him, and out of frustration, he picks up a stone, just ready to hurl it at the car. But then the car suddenly turns around and starts heading towards him. Now, this man just freezes up and wonders what's going to happen. But the lady who was in the car rolls down her window, and you see her leaning out and she asks him, "Do you happen to know where the nearest hospital is?" Now, of course, when he heard that, at the back of the seat, he saw her mother, who was unconscious. Now, when this happened, his anger just melted away, and he drops the stone, and he realizes that he needed a shift in perspective. Now, later on, he goes to work, and he gets ready for work, and an employee comes in, and this employee has been pretty late in turning his things in. Now, naturally, he was ready to get upset. He clenched his fists, and he was ready to just react. But instead, he remembered what had happened earlier on that day. So he asked the man, "Can you sit down?" And then started asking him, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And maybe this was the first time the employee felt comfortable to share what was going on in his little world that kept him from performing the best. Now, this may seem simple, but I think it's a powerful reminder how easy it is for us to jump into conclusions when we're so certain about our perspective. Now, extreme versions of egocentricity can, or the lack of perspective taking, can lead even to anxiety, depression, and strained relationships. Obviously, you can imagine that. I'm not going to explain it so much further. Now, to understand why shifting perspective is a little hard, I'm going to explain a little bit more about the neuroscience of things. And I'll give you this illustration. I'd like you to imagine this thumb finger right here is a part of your brain called the amygdala, or we'll call her Amy, him, whoever it is. We'll call this person Amy. Now sometimes, Amy, or the amygdala, is a part of your brain that processes emotions. Now your frontal lobe, or these 4 fingers right here, is the part of your brain that deals with decision making and sometimes calming Amy down. But when you're faced with a threat, Amy gets hijacked and starts screaming for help, like, I need help. And the role of the frontal lobe is to calm Amy down, but sometimes that doesn't happen, and your lid just gets flipped. And then you have a hard time taking the perspective of something else. Now, what do you do then? That's the question, right? I explain all this thing. Well, what do you do about this? Now, I'm going to give you one question that can really maybe even improve your day by 10%. Okay? So next time you feel the rush to jump into a conclusion, to see things from your own way, I'd like you to ask this one single question. And it is, what might I not be seeing? What might I not be seeing? Is there a different perspective I'm not considering? And I think this question can make a difference in the way you connect, empathize, and eventually in the way you grow.
All right, thank you very much, Gleny. That was great. Yes, we need a different perspective at times.